First Contact Protocol. Commander Ethan Shaw stood at the observation deck of Artemis Station, Earth's farthest outpost in the TOS-CD system. The stars stretched endlessly before him, cold and distant against the backdrop of infinite space. At 42, his face weathered by years of service in Earth's interstellar defense force, Ethan had seen humanity's greatest achievements in space exploration. Yet nothing had prepared him for what they would discover today. "Commander, you need to see this." Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez's voice crackled through his comm. The urgency in her tone made him straighten immediately. In the control room, screens displayed an anomalous energy signature emanating from a nearby system. The station's 12 crew members huddled around the central holographic display, faces illuminated by its blue glow. "It appeared 30 minutes ago," Maya explained, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "The signature doesn't match anything in our database." Dr. Elias Chen, the station's xenobiologist, adjusted his glasses as he studied the readings. "These patterns are too regular, too precise. This isn't natural." "A ship?" Ethan asked. "Much bigger," Security Chief Victor Okafor replied, his deep voice resonating in the chamber. "If these readings are accurate, we're looking at something at least 20 times the size of our largest vessels." The room fell silent. Humanity had spent centuries searching for intelligent life beyond Earth. Despite colonizing Mars and establishing outposts throughout the solar system, they had found only microbial life forms. Until now. "First Contact Protocol," Ethan ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Alert Earth Command immediately. Communications are already experiencing interference." Communications Officer Sarah Kim reported, fingers flying across her console. "The signal is degrading. Whatever this is, it's affecting our systems." Before Ethan could respond, the station trembled. Alarms blared as external sensors detected multiple objects approaching at impossible speeds. "Proximity alert," Victor shouted. "Objects entering our perimeter." "On screen," Ethan commanded. The display shifted to show 5 sleek, obsidian vessels shaped like elongated teardrops. They moved with fluid grace, surrounding the station in a perfect pentagonal formation. Their surfaces reflected no light, instead seeming to absorb it like cosmic voids. "They're scanning us," Maya reported, her voice barely above a whisper. A piercing sound cut through the alarms, forcing everyone to cover their ears. The station's systems flickered, screens displaying cascading symbols before stabilizing with a single message. "Prepare for ASSESSME. They're hacking our systems," Sarah gasped, bypassing every security protocol we have like they don't even exist. The largest ship positioned itself directly above the station. A beam of purple light extended downward, passing through the hull as if it were insubstantial. It coalesced in the center of the control room, forming a humanoid figure nearly 7 feet tall. The beam before them had silvery skin that rippled like mercury. 4 arms extended from a torso that tapered to a narrow waist. Its face featured no nose, only 2 large, multifaceted eyes that shifted colors with every movement, and a small mouth that didn't move when it spoke. "We are Valrethi." A voice resonated directly in their minds, melodic yet devoid of emotion. "Your species has been observed." Ethan stepped forward, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "I am Commander Ethan Shaw of Earth's Artemis Station. We welcome peaceful contact." The Valrethi's eyes pulsed with blue light. "Peace is inefficient. Resources are required. Your planet possesses what we need." Dr. Chen moved cautiously toward his console. "We're willing to negotiate trade agreements." "Negotiation is unnecessary," the alien interrupted. "Your technology is primitive. Your defenses inadequate. Resistance would result in extinction rather than harvesting." "Harvesting?" Ethan questioned, a chill running down his spine. "Your world will provide necessary elements for our continuation. Surviving humans will serve as biological processors in our collective." The Valrethi tilted its head. "This is optimal outcome for your species." Complete annihilation is alternative. Victor's hand moved toward his sidearm, but Ethan subtly signaled him to stand down. Facing an unknown alien species with vastly superior technology, violence would be suicide. "We request time to communicate with our leaders," Ethan said, maintaining a calm facade despite the horror of the alien's declaration. The Valrethi was silent for a moment. 12 of your hours are granted. Study of your biological composition will proceed simultaneously." Without warning, tendrils of light snaked from the alien, touching each crew member's forehead. Ethan felt a cold pressure in his mind as information was extracted at a rate that made his vision blur. Just as suddenly, the tendrils retracted. "Your species possesses unexpected adaptability," the Valrethi noted with what might have been surprise. "This quality will be harvested separately." The beam dissolved into light, leaving the crew disoriented and terrified. "Sarah, status of communications," Ethan demanded once he regained his composure. "Still blocked," she replied, frantically working at her station. "I can't get anything through their interference." "Then we're on our own," Ethan concluded grimly. 12 hours to save Earth. The crew gathered in the station's secure conference room, away from the main systems the aliens might be monitoring. Dr. Chen projected his findings onto the wall. "The scan they performed was thorough," he explained. "They now know everything about our physiology, but it works both ways. The contact gave me readings on their biochemistry." "Can we use that?" Maya asked. Chen nodded. "The Valrethi operate as a collective consciousness. Their ships aren't just vessels. They're extensions of their nervous system, and they have a critical vulnerability. They're extremely sensitive to certain frequencies that disrupt their collective." "A weakness we can exploit," Victor said, leaning forward. "Yes, but we'd need to deliver the disruption directly to their mothership," Chen replied. "Their outer hulls block these frequencies." Ethan paced the room. "So someone needs to get inside their ship." "It's suicide," Sarah protested. "Not necessarily," Chen countered. "The scan revealed they find human adaptability intriguing. They might allow one of us aboard under the pretense of negotiation." "And once aboard?" Ethan asked. Chen pulled up schematics of a small device. "This can generate the disruptive frequency, plant it near their central nervous cluster, and it could temporarily disable their collective consciousness, long enough for us to broadcast a warning to Earth." "I'll go," Ethan said without hesitation. The room erupted in protests, but he raised his hand. "This is my responsibility. Besides, as commander, I'm the logical choice for negotiations." Over the next hours, they prepared. Chen modified a neural implant to protect Ethan from the collective consciousness, while Victor adapted standard equipment into potential weapons. Maya programmed a specialized distress beacon that could punch through the Valrethi interference once their systems were compromised. As the deadline approached, Ethan stood ready in the airlock. The neural implant at the base of his skull throbbed slightly, a reminder of what was at stake. "The distress beacon is keyed to your vitals," Maya explained, adjusting the device hidden in his uniform. "If anything happens to you, it activates automatically. If I succeed, what we learn about their technology could advance humanity by centuries," Ethan said, attempting to lighten the mood. "Just come back alive," Maya replied, her professional demeanor slipping to reveal genuine concern. The station trembled again as the Valrethi ship docked with the airlock. Ethan took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and prepared to step into the unknown. "First contact protocol has failed," he said grimly. "Time to improvise." The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that seemed alive, pulsing with bioluminescent light. As Ethan stepped through, he could feel the weight of humanity's future resting squarely on his shoulders. Behind him, the airlock sealed with a final, ominous hiss. The Defiance Protocol. The interior of the Valrethi mothership defied human architecture. The corridor Ethan entered seemed grown rather than built, with walls that pulsed rhythmically like blood vessels. The floor beneath his boots felt organic, yielding slightly with each step before firming again. Soft bioluminescence followed his movements, creating a path of light that led deeper into the vessel. Fascinating, Ethan whispered, activating the micro-recorder in his collar. Dr. Chen would analyze every detail if, when, he returned. A group of smaller Valrathi approached, their mercury-like skin reflecting the surrounding lights. Unlike the ambassador, these had only 2 arms and simplified facial features. They moved with perfect synchronization, forming a circle around him. "Follow," they commanded in unison, the word resonating directly in his mind. Ethan was led through a labyrinth of corridors that occasionally expanded into vast chambers, filled with suspended Valrathi in translucent pods. In one chamber, he saw humans, the crew of missing exploratory vessels that Earth had presumed lost to accidents. They floated unconscious in similar pods, their bodies connected to the ship via glittering filaments. "Your predecessors," a voice announced. The ambassador Valrathi materialized beside him, its 4 arms moving in complex patterns. "They serve the collective now. Their neural pathways enhance our computational abilities." Ethan struggled to mask his horror. This is the fate you plan for humanity. For those with compatible neural structures, others will provide different resources. The alien gestured forward. "You will meet the primary now." They entered a massive spherical chamber at what Ethan presumed was the center of the ship. Suspended in its center was a being unlike the others. A massive Valrathi with 12 arms and a body that pulsed with intense light. Countless filaments extended from it, connecting to the walls and disappearing into the ship itself. "The primary controls the collective," the ambassador explained. "It finds your species' capacity for individual thought, inefficient yet intriguing." The primary's voice filled Ethan's mind, deeper and more powerful than the others. "Your species resists collectivism. This causes advancement through conflict, but creates inefficiencies. Explain this contradiction." The neural implant at Ethan's skull base warmed, protecting him from full mental intrusion while allowing communication. He needed to keep the primary engaged while moving closer to Plant Chen's device. "Our individuality is our strength," Ethan replied, slowly circling to examine the chamber, noting potential placement points. "Each human approaches problems differently. Where one fails, another may succeed through an entirely different method." "Inefficient," the primary insisted. "Collective thought processes all solutions simultaneously. Yet you haven't conquered the challenge of surviving without harvesting others," Ethan countered. "Perhaps a perspective outside your collective would help." The primary's lights pulsed rapidly, its equivalent of contemplation. "Your proposal?" "Allow me to examine your collective data. As an individual, I might see patterns you've missed." Ethan gestured to the filaments. "A temporary connection, supervised by you." Back at Artemis Station, the crew watched Ethan's vital signs with growing concern. His heart rate had elevated dangerously, and the neural implant was operating at maximum capacity. "He's engaging the primary directly," Chen observed. "Risky, but brilliant. It might give him access to their central nervous cluster." Maya worked furiously at her console. "I've modified the distress beacon. Once Ethan plants the disruptor, we'll have approximately 3 minutes before their systems adapt. The message needs to be ready." Victor had converted the station's medical bay into an impromptu laboratory where they worked on a secondary plan. "The biological countermeasure is ready. If Ethan succeeds in disrupting their collective, their ships will be vulnerable to this targeted virus. It attacks the specific molecular structure of their neural filaments." "That's genocide," Sarah protested. "It's designed to disable, not kill," Chen clarified. "It will force them into individual consciousness rather than collective. They'll survive, but won't function as a unified force." Sarah nodded grimly. "Message coded and ready for transmission. Earth will have 15 minutes to deploy the countermeasure globally before the Valrathi recover." On the mothership, the primary had agreed to Ethan's proposal. A single filament extended toward him, hovering before his face. "Connection requires direct neural interface," the primary explained. "I understand," Ethan replied, mentally preparing himself. As the filament approached his forehead, he grasped it with one hand while reaching into his pocket with the other, fingers closing around Chen's device. The moment the connection formed, Ethan was flooded with information. Countless worlds harvested, civilizations absorbed, knowledge accumulated over millennia. The Valrathi had existed for over 50,000 years, consuming resources across multiple galaxies. They were not evil by their understanding, merely efficient. Survival required resources. Individual suffering was irrelevant to collective continuity. Through the haze of information, Ethan activated the device. A high-pitched whine filled the chamber as the disruptor sent electromagnetic pulses through the primary's neural network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the collective. The primary writhed, its light flickering chaotically. The ambassador and smaller Valrathi collapsed, their synchronized movements dissolving into spasmodic twitches. Throughout the ship, systems faltered as the collective consciousness fragmented into individual awareness for the first time in millennia. What? Happening? The primary's voice was no longer a mental intrusion, but a struggling vocalization. Connection. Lost. Ethan pulled away from the filament, his mind reeling from the alien memories now embedded in his consciousness. "You're experiencing individuality," he gasped. "This is existence without the collective." Alarms blared throughout the ship as automatic defense systems activated. Ethan had minutes before security protocols would restore limited functionality. He ran, navigating through disoriented Valrathi, who seemed unable to comprehend their sudden isolation. At Artemis Station, screens flashed as the disruption propagated through the Valrathi fleet. "It worked," Maya exclaimed. "Their systems are in chaos." "Transmitting now," Sarah confirmed. "Message away." The distress beacon activated, sending detailed information about the Valrathi weakness along with the biological countermeasure formula to Earth. The quantum transmission bypassed conventional communication channels, ensuring near-instantaneous delivery despite the distance. Victor monitored the alien ships. They're beginning to recover. Adaptive systems are compensating for the disruption. "Where's Ethan?" Maya demanded, watching his vital signs spike dangerously. Ethan had reached an escape pod when the first systems began to recover. He launched just as the mothership's artificial gravity fluctuated, sending Valrathi floating helplessly through corridors. The pod ejected violently, spinning away from the mothership as its systems struggled to stabilize. Through the viewport, Ethan watched the massive vessel shudder as internal conflicts disrupted its biological components. "Artemis, do you read?" He called through the communication system. "Ethan." Maida's relieved voice filled the pod. "We've got you on sensors. Bringing you in." The transmission. Sent and received. Earth is deploying the countermeasure globally. The Valrathi won't be harvesting anything today. As Artemis Station's tractor beam locked onto the escape pod, the Valrathi ships began retreating, moving erratically as their collective control systems failed. The biological countermeasure had worked exactly as designed, forcing each Valrathi into isolated consciousness. Ethan stumbled from the pod into the station's docking bay, exhausted but triumphant. The crew surrounded him, supporting his weight as the neural implant was removed. "I sought everything," he told them, his voice hoarse. "Their history, their knowledge. They've existed for so long as a collective that they forgot what it means to be individuals. The countermeasure didn't just save us, it freed them." In the days that followed, Earth prepared for potential retaliation, but it never came. Instead, 3 months later, a single Valrathi ship approached Earth orbit. It broadcast a message to all frequencies in perfect English. "We request dialogue. The experience of individuality has transformed our understanding. The former primary seeks to establish peaceful contact and mutual exchange. Harvesting is no longer our way." Humanity's response was cautious but hopeful. The species that had come to consume now sought to communicate. A delegation was formed, with Ethan Shaw, now carrying unique insight into Valrathi consciousness, appointed as humanity's representative. As the diplomatic vessel departed Earth, Ethan stood at its observation deck, much as he had at Artemis Station months before. But now, instead of facing an unknown threat, he was embarking on humanity's greatest adventure, true partnership with an alien civilization. First contact protocol failed, he mused, watching Earth shrink behind him. But the Defiance protocol succeeded beyond our wildest hopes. The stars stretched before him, no longer cold and distant, but filled with new possibilities. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged not just surviving, but triumphant, proving that adaptability, individuality, and the courage to defy overwhelming odds were qualities worth preserving in the cosmos.